Are you a franchisor, whether early or established, looking for tips and tricks and fresh new ideas on taking your franchise company to the next level? I'm Angela Cote, and I call myself a franchise growth catalyst. I use my experience having grown up in the world of franchising, spending many years on the franchisor side of the franchise relationship, lots of time out in the field supporting franchisees, and then 18 years myself as a multi-unit franchisee. I'm super passionate about creating transformational impact to help franchise companies grow. If you are looking for ideas, we talk about anything from franchisee recruitment, how to find the best franchisees that are going to be the top performers in your brand, to how to support them to really optimize their output. We are more than open to hearing ideas and questions and suggestions. So reach out to me at angela@angelacote.com. Alrighty, let's get started with the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. Hey there, Angela Cote back for another episode of the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast, the podcast where franchisors can find unconventional yet practical advice on how to improve franchisee profitability, create exponential growth, and of course, make franchising fun. In today's episode, I thought I'd do something a little different, and that is that I would answer a couple of questions that I've been asked recently and have frequently been asked in the past. However, before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to my incredible team who nominated me to be recognized as one of the 100 most influential women in franchising in 2020. And I am super honored and appreciate the opportunity to have been named one of those 100 women. So a big thank you and shout out to my team and to all the people that were so kindly congratulating me on LinkedIn. I want to just make it real clear and say that, I am really excited to be able to make some impact in the franchise space and the franchise community, and that I am super passionate about helping people get franchising right. I just authentically want to help people, and my team and I work really hard at making sure that we're using really practical and authentic and transparent strategies to help franchisors and ideally create transformational change. So thank you to the team, and let's get started. So the first question that I want to answer for people, this is like a Q&A session here, is whether it's okay to have a franchisee sign up intentionally to be part-time as a franchisee. They say, I've got a job and I need that income. And so can I do this part-time? And my answer is always, ideally, no. You don't bring a franchisee onto the team that's going to work part-time as a franchisee. There's a few reasons for this. I do like the idea of the income that they're continuing to generate so that they're in less vulnerable capital position. However, in my experience, and just when you think logically about it, if they're not ready to go all in, there must be something stopping them from doing that. And it makes me wonder if they have the true passion and the grit to do what they have to do to make it work. So that's the first red flag that goes off for me when people don't want to go all in and give up that job. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a secondary income or backup plan. There should be, sometimes people will use their retirement savings as a backup plan, or they've got a spouse who's making an income, and that maybe that spouse is going to work on the weekends in the business, or, in the evenings or part-time. But for the principal franchisee of the business, unless they're a multi-unit franchisee or a more business savvy, sophisticated franchisee that's done this many times before, it usually doesn't work that well. And so not only is it a signal to me that they're not fully bought in and ready to go and ready to take that leap, but it also indicates to me that they are going to have split attention. So we all know that the amount of attention you put to something typically results in the results. It leads to the results you're going to get. So if you're only putting in a part-time effort, you're probably only going to reap a part-time result. And then the franchisee is unhappy because they're not seeing the ROI that they're anticipating to see in the business. So those are a couple of reasons. On Also, when the franchisee only wants to be part-time in the business, they don't have as much of an opportunity to really learn the business. And it takes them a lot longer to get things up and running. So in my experience, it's better to have them go all in and go through some of those hardships early and fast and get those kind of figured out and get ready to move on. And then, at some point, there's no question that if they're a good leader and they're following the system and potentially with you as the franchisor supporting them, that they could potentially be working less in the business and maybe at some point part-time. But in order for them to get to that point, typically, in most cases, it's best to have them fully engaged and really bought into what they're doing. And I will say I see a lot in like the sort of moms, returning to work businesses like boot camps and businesses where the mom is still kind of taking care of the kids and then going to do this other business or this franchisee of a business. In these cases, in case, you're listening and wondering about that, it's pretty much the same situation where the franchisee's focus is on their family first and foremost and their children. And so they're going to put the franchise on the back burner. One thing you could do to try to overcome, or I guess rather uncover whether or not it might work, is to really look at the franchisee prospect, what their resume is, what their history is. Are they the type of person who has a whole bunch of balls in the air and is successful at those things? Like if they're a mom and they're really involved in, maybe the parent advisory council at their school and they do an extracurricular activity on their own, maybe they've got some other kind of side hustle. If they kind of can prove to you that they can handle all this like multitasking and different things going on at one time and have had success in that situation, then maybe it might make sense. So there are, and that can apply to whether they're like a mom of like a business that's sort of targeted towards moms, or new dads, or, really any kind of business. So to take a good look, and I guess that kind of segues into the second part of the question, is that there really is, or not second part, but second answer in this is that there really is no one size fits all for any of this. It's not, none of this is a hard and fast rule. We talk all the time about how important it is for franchisees to be well capitalized. Well, one of my roundtables, I don't know, maybe like 6 weeks ago from now, I asked the group there, the group of franchisors, I said, just curious, anybody on this call, and I'm just giving this as an example, so it's going to sound a little bit off track, but does anybody on this call, have you ever had a franchisee come into your system and they seemed undercapitalized and you awarded the franchise anyway because they had so much passion and they seemed to have like the perfect resume otherwise? And as soon as I said it, a lot of heads were nodding saying, yeah, we've got someone like that in our system, or we've had numerous ones. So I'm just using this as an analogy that, we always say, well, if they don't have the capital, don't sign them up. Well, that's usually true. But if we, find that they check all the other boxes and, there's some kind of ways that we can tell that they're going to work really hard at this and get it going, then we might sort of just not ignore that, but look at that a little differently. So back to kind of the full-time versus part-time, I'm not saying never, ever, ever award a franchise to somebody saying that it's okay to be part-time, but it's just in general, the best way to do it is to have them more invested. All right. Hopefully I covered everything there because I didn't make notes before I said that I did this. I was just kind of doing it as if somebody asked me right now in the moment what I would say to them. And so I might come back to this in another podcast at some point, but for now, those are some thoughts. And next question I'm going to answer is that people ask me a lot, emerging franchisors ask me, how do you build up the infrastructure when you're bootstrapping a franchise company? And it's no secret that majority of franchisors, at least that I come in contact with and talk to, whether that's at conferences back when we could be in person or virtually now, or people that reach out to me, typically don't have a bunch of money tucked in the mattress ready to go to invest in building up this infrastructure. And they're trying to figure out, how do you build up the infrastructure without having the capital on the front end? And what I always tell people is to get creative. And two things really it comes down to. One is to look for the leaders within your franchise company, whether that's a franchisee or an employee in your business. is there somebody there that really is passionate for what you're doing, that would be willing to help build the company, knowing that they'll have been there in the early days and that as you grow, they will be compensated and they will have been part of this, and not only have better compensation when things start to really take off, but also that they'll have been able to be part of that legacy and part of the purpose, especially these purpose-driven businesses. This is especially exciting to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take less salary right now than I want to take if I went and worked somewhere else. But by doing this job, I get to be a part of this exciting initiative, this innovative company, and I get to make a difference. Or even just be alongside a good mentor. Like maybe they really like you, the founder, and you've got a great relationship. And to them, that's more important than going and working somewhere else where they can make more money, but not feel as fulfilled. So look for the leaders in the business, whoever they may be. I guess there's a few tips here. That's one. Another one is to, whether maybe this might just not be somebody that you're currently, you have on your team, but somebody in your network. So there might be somebody that you've already had conversations with about this, that, or the other, but you've really picked up on the fact that they're really excited about your brand. Now, maybe it's them or maybe someone they know, but reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for people to join my team. Have a conversation and find out what they're doing and find out if they know anybody that might be interested in helping build up your business, and try to get clear on what skills and things that you're lacking or need filled, what positions. You might say, I know I need somebody that's good at marketing, and I know I need somebody that's good at this. So just get those clear and then be on the lookout and have those conversations. And I'll tell you, it's exactly what's working for me in my business and always has. And in fact, had a ton to do with how my dad got his business off the ground, M&M Food Market, back in 1980, which we grew over the years to almost 500 locations. So this is a very common way to get a business from, one or two or whatever people to multiple on the team. Lastly, I will say, I do get asked, can I use my franchisees? Can they do some of the training or the franchise sales or the corporate work? And my answer is heck yeah. If they are passionate and they have their business running well, maybe they've got their business to a point where they've been able to step away. This is actually like a really perfect solution, because they, as an early adopter, are typically more entrepreneurial and probably going to get restless pretty soon if you don't start to involve them in more things. Like, they're, by very nature of the fact that they joined the franchise company, first, second, or third, if it's early on, the fact that they joined early says a lot about their nature, and that they are willing to take risks and kind of that maybe they like to be creative and do things differently. So to be able to sort of scratch that itch and have them do some additional support, for the franchise company and franchisor side of the relationship can be really amazing. So that can be anything from training to, as I mentioned, franchise sales, support. It could be tech support. It could be business coaching, whatever their skills might be. Why not tap into that? And you just have to get clear on expectations for what, if their corporate, their own franchise, needs to be kind of meeting certain expectations, because people are going to be kind of looking at that. You need to work those things out. So if you want further information on that, I'm more than happy to get on a call and chat about that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that my team and I help everybody that we work with on. So I think I covered it all there. So just to recap, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning for a minute here and recap for the question of full-time versus part-time. I would always err on the side of caution and encourage you to only bring franchisees on the team that are fully invested and want to be full-time and get this figured out and potentially maybe eventually step back, but initially be available at least the first 6 months, but probably longer, to be available full-time until they kind of get things figured out. So that's definitely where I've seen people have the most success. I'm not saying you can't do it the other way, as I said, but it is just the kind of general rule. And then as far as building up the infrastructure, the summary there is to look for leaders in the business and see if there's opportunities to have them more involved. And that for them, the compensation isn't all financial. It's also just being part of something. Also to extend out to your network of fans and ask them if they know anybody that would be interested or if they might be, whether you ask that through social media or get on calls with people, whatever, use your email list, whatever works. And then thirdly, Also, just looking at whether you might have any franchisees that might be interested in helping you grow the business, because it also benefits them. So those are my Q&A sort of my Q&A version of the podcast today. I hope you found that valuable. I would love to know, what are your key takeaways? It would be super awesome as well if you were to subscribe and like wherever you're seeing this, but also subscribe to the podcast. It's the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast by Angela Cote. All right. So please remember to tell me your key takeaways. It's super helpful for me, and feel free to request topics. And in the meantime, go be awesome.